One of the biggest differences between capitalism and socialism is that ultimately capitalism puts the for-profit motive above everything else, including the needs of people, while socialism puts the needs of people above the for-profit motive. And let me explain how this plays out for the healthcare industry and the food industry. So starting with the healthcare industry, which includes health insurance, it includes the pharmaceutical companies or any companies that make health-related equipment, right? When you make those for-profit private businesses, the incentive is to make money off of healthcare, right? And what types of people need healthcare? People who are not healthy in one way or another. They have some sort of disease or ailment, right? And so the sicker your population is, the more you're going to sell, right? You're going to sell more medications. You're going to sell more health equipment. You're going to sell more health insurance, right? Because healthy people don't need to go to the doctor except for preventative care. Healthy people don't need to medicate themselves. Healthy people don't need all of this medical equipment, right? And it also incentivizes not to find cures for diseases. It incentivizes medicating, right? So why go ahead and develop a cure for a certain disease, which means you'll no longer make money, but instead develop a medication that the patient is going to be reliant upon for the rest of their life, right? So for example, take diabetes. If you cure diabetes, then all the companies that manufacture insulin and make, however much money a month selling insulin, if you cure diabetes, there goes their entire business, right? So it incentivizes to not develop cures because, again, a sick population means you're going to sell more health-related items. Versus under socialism, when you put the needs of people above the for-profit motive, it means that you're not selling healthcare anymore. You're providing healthcare to make your population healthy, right? And it's not for profit anymore. So the incentive is to make your population as healthy as possible, because that means that the healthier population is, the less taxes everybody is ultimately going to have to pay. And everybody's going to want the incentive. Well, I don't want to have to pay for healthcare. I want to develop these cures so I don't have to pay as much in taxes for healthcare of others, because everybody is ultimately healthy. And it makes that goal that people will put the money that is in taxes to going ahead and curing these diseases and ailments and making it better for all. And now for the food industry, when you make food a for-profit private business, the incentive isn't to provide food to feed people and, make it so that the food that they have is nutritionally dense and filled with all the proper vitamins and minerals. No, the incentive is to sell as much food as you possibly can. And so you're going to try and engineer food to be as addictive as possible and as cheap to produce as possible, right? Why go ahead and make and design food that will make people feel satiated and provide them with all of the proper vitamins and minerals that they need and nutrients they need, when instead you can go ahead and make it as addictive as possible and devoid of any nutritional value, so the person has to constantly just buy more and more and more food, right? Which then leads to things like increased obesity rates, increased risk of diabetes, increased risk of cancer, right? Because not only is this food super addictive, but they want to increase their profit margin as much as they can. So they go to these cheap ingredients that are made in a lab, but have all these negative repercussions associated with them, like maybe increased risk of cancer or increased risk of heart disease, right? So you have your population then consuming this food that makes them, leads to things like diabetes, heart disease, cancer, hypertension, right? All of these joint problems, inflammation, right? Which then fuels the for-profit private healthcare industry, right? You see how these things are related? Versus under the socialist model, you're providing food for people to feed them, right? And the goal is to give them as much nutritionally dense and valuable food as you can so that you don't have to produce as much, right? To produce as little food as you need to fit the needs of all people and make sure they have the proper vitamins and minerals. It's not for profit, it's for feeding people and making sure that they have the proper nutrients, right? Which then leads to a healthier population, which again is going to lead to a healthcare system where people don't need to spend so much on it because people are eating nutritionally balanced food. And it also limits on food waste because under our capitalist model right now, we produce enough food to feed 10 billion people on the planet, but there's only 8 billion people in the world, right? So we literally produce more food than is needed because if under this model, for-profit model, if they can't sell it for a profit, they don't donate it, they don't give it away, they throw it away, right? And it creates all of this waste and all these resources that are just going to waste because somebody can't sell it for a profit. And before I get in the comments where people are like, if there's no profit incentive, then why would anybody work to do these things anymore? Just because it's not for profit doesn't mean that your labor would not be paid for, right? Ultimately, communism is moneyless, but socialism is the process of going from capitalism to communism. And in that process, you would still be paid for your labor, right? It's just like the roads. The roads are not for profit. The roads are socialized, right? The people who are working on the roads and making the roads are being paid for their labor. It's just that there isn't some greedy private capitalist that it's making billions of dollars off of the construction of roads. The roads are not for profit. The roads are to provide transportation for the people.